And of course, Ron's going to be with us for the next hour and a half or so. Andrew, we'll send it back over to you.
Becky, thank you for that great conversation. When we come back, some big tech companies reporting next week. And our next guest is an investor in all of them. He's going to tell us what he's hoping to see and if you should be taking a closer look for your own portfolio. We're back with that in just a moment.
People have always told me I can be a bit wary of modern things.
Very true.
So when Jane suggested selling the house with purple bricks, I weren't happy.
No, you weren't.
You see, I don't like technology. I don't like the internet. I don't like moving house. I don't like their adverts. I don't like purple.
Luckily, I don't listen to him, and our estate agent Emma were perfect. She gave us her actual mobile number. She was always available.
Fine, they were great. Still don't like purple.
Purple bricks. You'll be totally sold.
Fixed fee payable on instruction or after 10 months. Viewing services cost extra. See website for more details.
When it comes to music, I've heard it all. Pink Floyd, Sean Paul, Slipknot. But in the Witch Test Lab, hearing isn't enough. When we test headphones, we really listen. Not just to the music, but to the stuff that gets in the way. The traffic, the chatter, all that.
Mind the gap.
We simulate the loudest commute to find you the headphones that cancel out the noise. So you know we're only recommending the best.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Be part of the Perfume Shop's exclusive buy one, get the second half price gifting weekend. Buy any perfume in-store or online and you'll get the second half price. Thinking of a present? Think the Perfume Shop for the ultimate finishing touch. Offer ends Sunday the 27th of October. Visit theperfumeshop.com for more details.
Carl's All Change Casserole.
So, Chloe walks in from school. Tears all over her face.
Daddy,
she says,
I don't want to eat animals anymore.
I blooming love my meat. But not as much as I love my little girl. That's why we've made some changes to our old favourite, sausage casserole. Now with meat-free Cumberlands, but still with my magic touch, a dollop of mango chutney. Just as tasty as it used to be.
Better, actually.
Make your own with the new Tesco Plant Chef range, Food Love Stories, brought to you by Tesco.
This autumn, as the nights draw in, beat the cold with Now TV. Curl up with the latest blockbusters, including Bohemian Rhapsody and Hotel Mumbai. Plus, with over 40 new movies added each month, from Aquaman to How to Train Your Dragon 3, Now TV's got you covered, wherever you feel like watching. Get cozy with the latest and best movies for just $11.99 a month. Search Now TV today. 18 plus month passes auto-renews unless cancelled. Terms apply.
Welcome back to Squawk Box. It's been a huge week for earnings. Joining us right now with an investment idea and a look at maybe what's working. Dryden Pence is here, Chief Investment Officer at Pence Wealth Management. Good morning to you. Thank you for being with us. We want to sort of go around the clock with you because you've got some big investments, many of which have actually reported their earnings this week. I want to start with a stock that's not working, though, this morning. You are an investor in Amazon, a big one. The stock falling on a weak Q3 and a disappointing holiday quarter forecast. What's your take?
This really doesn't concern us. This is kind of a short-term pullback based on some headline news that we think is actually long-term very good for the stock. I mean, at the beginning of the year,
you're buying more.
We're buying. New money is buying into the models, and we probably think that we're going to have some further pullbacks in all the market between now and the end of the year. So we're looking for opportunities broadly.
Because
basically the market's toppy, and we look at some headline volatility at this moment, and because of that, we're going to see we'll get another one of these bumps that we always get.
So does that mean you're sitting with a little bit of cash, waiting for this moment?
Absolutely.
And what does that moment look like?
The moment looks like probably we could run into maybe a 5 to 7 pullback on the market.
Pullback
in the market between now and the end of the year.
Okay.
Maybe an echo of what happened last year, but I don't think near as much.
An echo of last year would put you down close to 20%.
Well, as I said, an echo, but not the actual noise. So you could probably fall back somewhere between 7 and 10, somewhere in there. and then that'll be a good opportunity. So new money's getting Amazon, and in terms of jumping back in and buying more, we'll kind of wait and see what the price action is. But this particular move doesn't concern us all. We think it's a good long-term investment they're making in transportation.
Okay, let's talk about Facebook as well, because I know you're an investor in that company as well. It announced a dedicated new news section today, and it will report earnings next week. Mark Zuckerberg speaking in New York later today, and of course speaking a lot in Washington in the past 48 hours.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting that all the politicians that are talking ganging up on Facebook. We're headed into political season. There's going to be a ton of money spent on political ads. Facebook is going to definitely get its share. So these things are actually going to drive.
Do you think that the political advertising is that important to their underlying business model?
I don't think it's important to the underlying business model, but I think it's certainly additive to overall ad spend, and they're very dominant in ad spending. So they're going to see more. How unhappy
would you be if Mark Zuckerberg announced that he was not going to accept political advertising?
First of all, I don't think that will happen.
I don't think that's going to happen either.
And it would affect us to take a look at it. But there's a lot of people who think he should. But we would back off from a little bit of looking at the earnings as it is as a marginal contributor, but it's not going to change our position on the stock. They're absolutely dominant long term.
Okay, you're also an investor in Apple, and that company reports next week as well. We'll launch Apple TV Plus next Friday. So are you stockpiling more?
We are still acquiring Apple. New money gets it, absolutely. And we're doing that because, Apple is being very successful in increasing their subscription levels. They're increasing all of their other types of revenue sources, and we think long-term they're going to continue to be dominant. And the iPhone 11 is selling better than people thought it would.
Okay, and then Boeing. Give me the Boeing story here.
Sure. Sooner or later, the 737 flies. Boeing has a 50-year history of fixing these problems. Sooner or later, it's going to fly, and when it does, some of these things will kind of fade into the background. So we think sometime in 2020, they're back in the air. And
if it's back in the air, the stock is what? At 343 this morning, by the way.
It's significantly higher than it is. It's back to where it was before. So I think that it's probably in the mid 400s, but how long it takes to get there is hard to say. That's a timing issue. But they continue to do very well, and people forget the defense component of Boeing.
Fair enough. Jordan Pence, thank you. Appreciate it. Becky, I want to get over to you. What's going on? What do you got coming up?
Still to come this morning, we've got some high-profile guests still to come from the Barron Investor Conference, including MSCI CEO Henry Fernandez and Tesla Chairman Robin Denholm. This is her first CNBC interview. It's been almost a year since she was tapped to be the chairman at Tesla. We'll talk to her about her relationship with Elon Musk. Right now, though, as we head to a break, let's check out the futures at this hour. You'll see right now, Dow futures indicated up by about 32 points. S&P down by just over a point. The Nasdaq down by about 31. Stick around. We've got a lot more to come, and we'll be right back.
What's Working is sponsored by Comcast Business.
What if your email was organized by project and not by date? What if everyone looked at the same thing instead of their own inbox? Then it wouldn't be email at all. Forget your fragmented, jumbled inbox and make the change to channels in Slack. Spaces dedicated to individual projects, topics, or teams. All your communication is neatly organized and everyone is on the same page. Slack. Choose a better way to work. Get started at slack.com.
It's time to do a bit of Debenhams with up to 30% off our favourite coats, knitwear and boots for the whole family and 20% off throughout home. Shop now, in-store and at Debenhams.com.
TSB want to celebrate the incredible stories of people helping people up and down the country, like Charlotte, Simon and Kirsty, who set up the Sidekick Dance Company with the aim of giving young people the chance to express themselves. They've now expanded to adults and people with physical disabilities after the classes proved so popular. TSB are proud to celebrate stories like these and to partner Pride of Britain. To find out more, search TSB Local Pride.
Teaching shapes lives. If you're considering a career in teaching, you could be eligible for a £26,000 tax-free training bursary. Find out about the financial support to help you start your career in the classroom. Teaching. Every lesson shapes a life. Search Get Into Teaching. Bursary subject to eligibility. Selected subjects only.
When it comes to music, I've heard it all. Pink Floyd, Sean Paul, Slipknot. But in the Which Test Lab, hearing isn't enough. When we test headphones, we really listen. Not just to the music, but to the stuff that gets in the way. The traffic, the chatter, all that. Mind the gap. We simulate the loudest commute to find you the headphones that cancel out the noise. So you know we're only recommending the best.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
The B&Q 3 for 2 offer is now on, including an unmissable 3 for 2 on all paint, such as Dulux, Valspar and Farrow & Ball. For this show-stopping deal, hurry to B&Q. You can do it when you're 3 for 2 it. Every third item per single transaction in descending price order free. Offer ends November 3rd. See DIY.com.
Players in the Big Apple, we are live from the Barron Investment Conference speaking to legendary investor Ron Barron. In this hour, the chairman and CEO of MSCI weighs in on index funds, plus an exclusive interview with the chairman of Tesla.
Washington and Wall Street return to Saudi Arabia. The country's big investment conference kicking off next week. A list of who's attending and what's changed over the past year, all straight ahead.
Plus, earnings from Verizon ready to hit the wires. The number in market reaction coming up as the second hour of Squawk Box begins right now.
It's Friday, I'm in love. Monday, you can fall apart. Tuesday, Wednesday,
Welcome back to Squawk Box on CNBC. It's Friday, and I'm in love.
We are in love, folks. Good morning. Welcome to Squawk Box right here on CNBC. Love is in the air. We are live at the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. Joe, you loving it?
I'm in love
Just show some love.
I'm in love with this show.
Welcome back to Squawk
Loving
Box
Joe Kernan this morning.
CNBC.
Becky is at
It's
the Barron
Friday,
Investment Conference and is joined by none other than the one and only Ron Barron, who has a lot of love himself. She'll be bringing us two great interviews this hour, along with Ron's investment ideas. First up, Henry Fernandez, the chairman and CEO of MSCI, and then the Tesla chair, Robin Denholm, is going to be our very special guest. A lot of questions for her. Those exclusive interviews are now just minutes away. And joining us in studio, also with a lot of love, Walter Isaacson, advisory partner at Perella Weinberg, and of course, a CNBC contributor and author extraordinaire. U.S. equity futures at this hour. Let's show you what's going on. Dow looks like it would open up 35 points higher. NASDAQ looking to open 31 points lower. A little bit of Amazon in there. S&P 500 off about 1 point, Joe.
We haven't mentioned how great Intel's report was. That's obviously not offsetting the weakness in Amazon. And we were a little worried about the chips with Xilinx and some of the other recent numbers. But Verizon, we got to tell you, just crossing the wires. Profit came in at $1.25 a share, 1 cent above expectations. Results were helped by growth in its wireless business. Revenue was also above analysts' forecasts. And starting on November 12th, all new and existing Verizon customers will get a year of Disney Plus for free. For more on this and Facebook unveiling Facebook News, let's bring in our guest host for the hour, CNBC contributor Walter Isaacson. He's a professor at Tulane and an advisory partner at Perella Weinberg. Do you watch much of that, the Zuckerberg testimony, Walter?
I did watch the Zuckerberg testimony partly because I have a class at Tulane and I assigned it to them because the class is on the digital revolution from Ada Lovelace to Mark Zuckerberg. And the question that's facing Facebook now is threefold. One, you got a lot of attorneys general around the country trying to do the antitrust. And so we're studying how does it fit into Standard Oil or U.S. versus Microsoft, where you dominate some fields and then try to use that to dominate others. Secondly, it really fits in when it comes to what do you publish? Should they be taking provably false ads that Elizabeth Warren puts on as a test? Or should they be allowing falsities to spread? So we study Times v. Sullivan, the great libel case, which I had forgotten isn't about a news story. It's about an ad that the New York Times ran. So we're really looking at it, and I think this is history being made.
Who Lovelace?
Ada Lovelace. Hey, come on. She was the person who invented the algorithm.
Okay, all right.
and
I misunderstood.
person
I misunderstood.
computer. There are only people of some generation who hear that name and think something else.
Yeah.
Most people understand that she was
most
one
people.
who
I think
came
most
up-
people think you're a pervert. Actually, when you say that.
No. She came up with the general purpose computer in the 1830s by looking at how punch cards were making patterns on
How long ago? In the 19th century? In the 19th century. That's
she
right.
was Lord Byron's daughter, and she looks at the punch cards doing these looms and says, "Oh, they could work with my friend's numerical calculator."
I think she needs a bio.
I want to talk, if we could, about where we are today, which is the news of the day on Facebook.
Yep.
Is this deal with news publishers like the Wall Street Journal and others? What do you think of? I mean, is this?
I think
this
this is a
gonna help
really
them?
big
Is this
deal, and
too
it's
late?
going to help them.
It will help them. The question is why they didn't do this 5 years ago.
And they did it wrong 5 years ago, which is they tried to get the publishers to take stories and host them on Facebook, put them and post them on Facebook, which means that Facebook would have controlled the eyeballs, they would have controlled, the people using it, the advertising and everything else. And if you're a publisher, if you're the Wall Street Journal, and by the way, the Washington Post is coming in on it too in the announcement, you want Facebook to be sending readers to your site, not you putting news on Facebook's site.
How do you think this changes the dynamic in terms of reporting around Facebook?
Oh, I don't think it changes it at all. I remember this goes back to the future, meaning in the early 1990s when I was at Time Magazine, we got paid about this amount of money, $1 million a year, to put our content and work with AOL. Do you remember what AOL was?
Of course I do.
CompuServe. And they would compete against us. Now, we were pretty good at covering AOL until AOL bought Time Warner. That confused things a bit. But I think reporters almost bend over backwards to show that they're going to be tough. So when Zuckerberg testifies, I don't think you're going to see the Washington Post being soft on him because they have this content deal. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm a bit naive.
I thought it was really great that for me, you didn't automatically say that so that someone supporting Trump can put lies on Facebook. You used Elizabeth Warren for the example, and almost a fair and balanced way, just to say that both sides lie, and you did that just to be fair.
I come from Louisiana, where we had a wonderful politician, John Schwegman, and old Huey Long said to him, said, you know how you know, it's easy to tell when he's lying, because people say, how do you know? He says, you look at his face, and if his lips are moving, he's lying. So, I think it comes from all corners.
But Facebook somehow, I was telling you yesterday, it's bipartisan. Both sides have bones to pick with Facebook.
I think Facebook's in a little bit of trouble, in terms of the antitrust, both sides, from Josh Hawley, to Dick Durbin and others.
Democrats hate him because of the 2016 election. Conservatives hate him because they think that everything is censored against conservatives.
Okay, but let me ask you just a simple question, which I'm
not on Facebook, so I may not be able to answer.
All right, but suppose somebody wants to put an ad on Facebook that says, and this is what a congresswoman said to Zuckerberg a couple of days ago.
Right.
I'm a Democrat. I've got a Republican running against me. I want to put an ad saying this person is secretly for the Green New Deal. He voted for the Green New Deal.
Right.
That is, of course, a total lie.
Right.
Should she be allowed to put that ad on Facebook?
My default position is caveat emptor, and I'm a big boy, and I'll look into it myself because I don't think that they're ever going to have the capability to ferret out every single lie. And you know what you said about lips moving? When politicians talk, I pretty much assume I need to check into it, whether it's true on either side.
And that's what Mark Zuckerberg says, which is we can't be the one to help the buyer and say this politician is right or wrong.
Right.
On the other hand, other outlets, you could not run on CNBC or in the New York Times an ad that got provably false.
Right.
I think when getting back to what Andrew was saying, Facebook has now become more and more of a publisher. This move today, this announcement with the Wall Street Journal, makes them even more of a publisher. There are two categories in the American law, a platform and a publisher. A platform means you don't have to take responsibility for what goes on. It's just like an internet bulletin board.
Right.
Publisher, you can be sued. I think that this is going to move them, so they have to take responsibility, just like the New York Times did in Times v. Sullivan. If somebody sues them and says this is wrong, and I actually think Mark Zuckerberg wants that, because it helps Facebook in a way, because they can handle it. They've got the size, the lawyers, the algorithms. It'll hurt the 4chans and 8chans and the messier ones.
Walter, thanks. We got to get to Becky, but you'll be with us for the rest of the hour. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, let's get over to Becky, as we just said, at the Barron Investment Conference taking place at Lincoln Center. Becky is there with a very special guest. Becky.
Hey, Andrew. Fascinating conversation. Ron and I were both listening in. Of course, Ron Barron of Barron Capital Management is here. We're going to be asking him to weigh in on the tax debates that have played a big role in the Democratic presidential race. Ron, we've heard a lot of what's been going on with this, and we've had a lot of billionaires who have come on the show, talked about their views, and some of them have kicked us some real firestorms. I think specifically of Lee Cooperman, who was a guest of ours just last week. He weighed in on this, and here's what he had to say when it comes to some of the wealth tax ideas. I want you to listen to this soundbite and then react to it. Go ahead and play that, guys.
Stop portraying billionaires as criminals. Our economy would be better off if we had more billionaires. Just tax them.
Again, that was Lee Cooperman, who was on Squawk Box talking about his views on some of these issues. He just got into it with Elizabeth Warren the other day. He said, I think to Ben White from Politico, this is the effing American dream, and she's blanking all over it. Warren responded yesterday saying, come on, Leon, why don't you just give back a little bit more? Why don't you give back some of what you've been given? What would your response be to that?
Well, Lee is an incredibly generous man. And I think he's already committed to giving away at least half of his assets, and I think he's probably giving away more than that. His dad was a plumber, died when he was lugging a refrigerator up a flight of stairs. He's a really good guy. Very generous man, very helpful. Food is for the poor is a big charity of his, so he gives away a lot. And if you live in the Northeast and you have a high income, your tax rate is high, very, very high.
What's your tax rate?
52, 53%, something like that. It's over 50. And so...
That's your federal tax rate, or that's everything all
That's
included?
everything.
Everything, yeah.
Because your state tax isn't deductible.
Right.
And not including real estate taxes. I pay those in addition. Right. But you pay a lot in your salary against your salary. And so they're trying to say, I think, that if you have saved and are judicious about the way you spend and invest it to create a business that's benefiting a lot of families, then that should be taxed more highly than if you just take your income and spend it and buy a boat or a house or a vacation. So they're trying to encourage more consumption. So Bernie says you shouldn't have any billionaires, and Elizabeth Warren says if you're successful because this country's allowed you to be successful, well, then you shouldn't be as successful as you are. You should have some of your money coming back, which just means that you're going to be taking some of those jobs that you would have created otherwise and give them away. My business has 165 people who are 166, 167 employees, and we grow about 10 or 15 people a year. And when we started our business in 1982, we had 3 people. So we had 3 people with $10 million. Then we had $100 million in 1992. Now it's $29.5 billion. But we now have people who are growing 16 people a year, 10 people a year, every year. Good times, bad times, market's doing well, market's doing poorly. There has never been a layoff at Barron Capital, not ever. And so all we do is keep hiring. So if you're telling me that I can't have as much money as retained earnings, I can't hire as many people. I can't have the business that we have. How does that happen?
Ron, let's just explain.
But I should take my money and buy something.
Right. Well, let's explain to people who don't know you. You are a long-time Democrat. You've supported Democratic candidates throughout this. A little different than Lee in some of his political leanings. If they need to raise more revenue, what would you suggest they do? If a wealth tax is not the right idea,
why don't you do a VAT? So in Europe, they tried to do a wealth tax and it didn't work. People figured out how to avoid it. The lawyers in private practice are real good at figuring out how to do all sorts of things that are legal. So all you're going to do is encourage people.
And a value-added tax, by the way, would catch people who are spending it. It goes on consumption. Now, what some people say about that is it's a regressive tax because those at the lowest part of the income scale have to spend all of their money just to survive.
So I think that. So I'm not. When the president got elected, I know him, and
President Trump.
Yes, and he said, "So what do you?" Right after the election, he said, "What do you think I should do?" I said, "I don't know what you should do," and that's not my bag. I just think that. And I said, I'm a Democrat my whole life, and I always will be. And my grandfather was an immigrant, my mother's dad. He once told me he came from Russia. They had to leave, the pogroms and everything. And he said, Ronnie, I'm a Democrat. I said, so why? Why? He was working for James Roosevelt, who was the president's son, as running for mayor in Miami. And he said, well, they all just take from you. The Democrats just give you a little bit back. That was his theory. And so I think that you should be encouraging people to invest, and you should make it as fair and equitable in all businesses possible. But it's not my job to figure out what policy should be. I just figure out how I can do the best for our employees and for our clients, and whatever it is, it is. And I don't think that Elizabeth Warren would be successful in getting. It doesn't matter how many people are going to be elected or Democrats. She's not going to be successful if she were chosen president as in getting through the policies that she's proposing. I think they're pretty nuts.
Okay. We've got a lot more with Ron. We are here at the Barron Investment Conference. And Joe, for right now, we'll send it back over to you.
Thank you, Becky. Let's check. I was talking. Walter's trying to send me something. He's spelling my name wrong. A-N, which so many people do, Beck. And I was just spelling it to him. He's got an important.
A-N. By the way, for all of you at home who want to email Joe, it's
yeah, that's right. It's A-N. It's A-N. Let's check on the futures this morning. Up about 26.5 points or so. The NASDAQ indicated down about 33. S&P indicated down 2. People try and send email sometime, and they send it to Aaron.Sorkin.
Still to come from the Barron Investment Conference, MSCI Chairman and CEO Henry Fernandez responds to Senator Marco Rubio's criticism of how the firm picks China stocks for their indexes. And later, Tesla's shocking quarter has sent the stock soaring. We'll hear from Chairman Robin Denholm later in the hour. Squawk Box, live from the Barron Investment Conference, continues after the break. This CNBC program is...
We just got back from a beautiful city break in Bath. Midweek is the perfect time to beat the crowds. Just an hour and a half by train from London. It was so relaxing. We headed straight for Bath Christmas Market. Oh, I can still smell the roasted chestnuts and mulled wine from the chalets. We dropped off our Christmas shopping at the hotel. Then it was off to be spellbound at the Theatre Royal Bath. There's so much to do in Bath. I'm already planning my next trip.
Discover the magic of Bath this Christmas. Plan ahead at visitbath.co.uk/Christmas.
Why is Lizzie going rental for Fizzy Haze? Is it because her flat is so beautiful and spacious? Snazzy! Or has roof terrace, garden and party room? Surprising! Or because it's 18 minutes to Paddington? Easy! With friendly staff on hand to take any deliveries? Amazing! Or just because her fuzzy friend can live there too? Find your new home at fizzyhaze.com. Fizzy Living. Reinventing renting.
What if your email was organized by project and not by date? What if everyone looked at the same thing instead of their own inbox? Then it wouldn't be email at all. Forget your fragmented, jumbled inbox and make the change to channels in Slack. Spaces dedicated to individual projects, topics, or teams. All your communication is neatly organized and everyone is on the same page. Slack. Choose a better way to work. Get started at slack.com.
Millions of people are missing out by having a current account that doesn't pay them any interest on their hard-earned money. TSB offers interest to all their Plus account customers for no monthly fee. Plus, you can stop your friends and family missing out by recommending the Plus account to them. And when they switch, you'll both earn £75. Search online or visit your local branch. Terms and conditions apply. Breathe in and out. Every day, you take 20,000 breaths, potentially exposing yourself to harmful particles of pollution. According to the Royal College of Physicians, air pollution contributes to around 1 in 20 deaths in the UK. But at E.ON, we believe it's time to do something about it. We've committed to installing ultra-fast electric vehicle charge points. We offer solar panels and batteries that collect and store energy. And we've helped a citywide transport operator introduce a large fleet of emission-free electric buses. It's time to clear the air. Search E.ON Clean Air.
You've specifically targeted MCSI. They're a global index provider. What have you heard back from that company?
Well, we got a letter back. They didn't really answer most of our questions, but what they did admit to is that they don't do any sort of vetting in terms of the companies that are being invested in. So they're not comparing their list of investments to companies that are sanctioned by the United States or the international community, companies that are actively involved in egregious human rights violations. At a minimum, there should be some disclosure there about that reality.
That was Florida Senator Marco Rubio, who joined us on Squawk Box on Wednesday. Rubio is part of a bipartisan group of legislators that are pushing for divestment from China, including the index of our next guest. Let's welcome right now MSCI Chairman and CEO Henry Fernandez. Of course, we're here with Ron Barron at the Barron Investment Conference. And Henry, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
That was a soundbite from Marco Rubio. I'm sure you're familiar with what his concerns are about companies that have invested in Chinese stocks. Some of your indexes are allowed to do that in Chinese firms. Why don't you explain how that works and then what you think about the criticism that comes from that?
So the first thing to say is that the MSCI is not an investor or an asset manager or an investment advisor, and therefore when remarks are made as to how we direct funds one way or another, we're not the principal. We're an intermediary. We're an agent helping our investors figure out how to invest around the world in a good way. So indices are constructed, for every global investor anywhere in the world to be able to look at a market, and the only criteria is, can you buy and sell the shares in that market? Are the companies big enough? Do they have enough liquidity? Do we have enough size? Because a lot of our clients are institutional investors. Our indices are not meant to be, let's investigate this company because it has ties to the French government, or this other company because it has ties to the Turkish government, or anything like that. That is for investors to do themselves. Ours is more like a shopping list. Think of it like that. Ours is what is the universe of potential investments that you can make, and then you as an investor need to decide whether you like those investments, whether they have good value for you, whether those companies have links to other parts of the government or not.
His concern, though, Marco Rubio's, as he laid it out to us, is that these are investments in companies that are doing all kinds of things that they shouldn't be doing. And by the way, they're not held to the same accounting standards, so it could be risky for investors to boot. I realize that you're just a middleman for some of these issues, but you do make decisions when it comes to ESG on things that you think you shouldn't be investing in. So how do you kind of put the juxtaposition of those two ideas together, where I'm just a middleman, we're just offering people advice, but there are some things we do think are bad that we wouldn't have people invest in?
Do you really tell people about what they should invest in, or you just give people the parameters and let them make their own decisions?
Yeah, we definitely create the tools for people to then use them to figure out what are their decisions, because we cannot tell investors what decisions to make. So we have two product lines. We have the market capitalization indices, which is that product line that then says, here is the total universe, complete total universe of securities in the world that you can buy and sell, and here's how they perform, so that you can then make a reference as to what your performance could be relative to the market. The second product line that we have is the sustainable investing product line, the ESG product line, which then takes that universe of securities and say, what companies, do they have good governance? Do they have good environmental records? Do they have good social records? And so on and so forth. And then we create indices out of that, and for investors to then decide if that is a good barometer and a good benchmark for them. But these are two separate things, two separate product lines that we offer, because again, we offer choice. We offer investors choice for them to decide what they would like to do.
If there is a law that's passed, as Rubio would like to see happen, where this would be illegal, how do you respond? How would you react?
Well, we ourselves and our clients, which are investors like Ron Barron, right? They need to comply with the law of their applicable country. So whether you're in France, you got to comply with the law in France or in Japan. So if there is a law that restricts the flow of assets by the U.S. into some country, then we will create specialized indices for those clients in that one country that take those legal and regulatory restrictions into account.
Can I ask just a question in terms of the potential risk for, let's say, a CalPERS or somebody who might be using some of these indices? My understanding is that in China, you're allowed to put a lot of investments in, but the rules on divesting is a little more complicated. They may not allow a company or an investor to take out their money if they're seeing constraints on capital or other issues that concern them. It could get gated, so to speak. Is that true?
No, it's not true. I mean, you can buy and sell in China, in the A-share market in China. We're not talking about the offshore market, but the A-share market in China. You can buy and sell. And there is some limitations as to how much money you can put in, how much money you can get out, and that's why the weight of the country in the index is very small relative to the size of the market. It's an emerging market, and you could potentially say they can impose restrictions on the flow of capital. But so does Brazil put restrictions on the flow of capital. Argentina is putting restrictions on the flow of capital. There has been threats by the Turkish, government to put restrictions. So that's why it's a risky investment, because it's an emerging market. But it's no different than Russia or Turkey or Brazil or other places like that, right?
So take what Senator Rubio is proposing and play the devil's advocate. And if he were successful in accomplishing what he's trying to do, what kind of impact would that have on flow of capital, on trade? Take us through a little bit. If he was successful, what impact would this be on markets?
So devastating, because right now there's a trade war going on in the world, and that affects supply chains. When you start having a finance war in which you're restricting the flow of capital around the world, that disrupts the financial system of the world. So I believe that, whatever it caused the Great Depression, which was a severe trade restrictions, nowadays the amount of investments and flows, capital flows around the world is vastly higher than the amount of trade that happens in the world. So if you begin to say the U.S. economy, the U.S. government, as the most open and liberal economic and democratic society in the world, is setting an example to create severe restrictions on the flow of capital in the world, other countries are going to follow that. And therefore, if that happens, then we're going to have a world in which the fuel that lubricates economic growth and prosperity in the world is cut off. The oxygen gets cut off. And therefore, you end up with a global economy that is significantly smaller than what we have today.
Your company has had an amazing run since it was spun off from Morgan Stanley. What did you say, up 10 times since
Maybe
2008?
More than that. We went public at $18 a share 12 years ago, and it's $220 today.
So what is it about indexes and investing investing in these indexes that is so popular today? How do you see that going from here?
I think what drives the growth of the company, and will continue to drive it in the next generation, is not just indices. What we are is an investment tools company. We provide the mission-critical investments that are necessary for investors of capital, allocators of capital, managers of capital, traders of capital, to make the process less friction. So whether it's sustainable investing, whether it's private equity investing, whether it's public real estate investment or private real estate investing, whether it is factor investing, passive investing, global investing, we give you the tools. We want to be the category killer, the largest supplier of all tools in the world that make the job that Barron and his team have a lot easier. And that is an incredible growth opportunity for a company like this.
ESG is a really big deal for them.
Yeah.
Henry, I wish we had more time to speak with you, but I really appreciate your being here today. Thank you.
Could I do one thing before he leaves?
Sure.
Then Henry has established a very large net worth for himself because of his role as a founder and because of his investment and ownership continuing in MSCI. And about, 6 months ago, when MSCI, so companies have a hard time, oftentimes, getting their founders, getting their directors, getting their executives to invest in their businesses. Henry has his whole net worth in his business. And basically, his board actually said to him, we'd like you to sell a little bit of stock, Henry, And Henry said, I'm not going to sell stock. I think I'm going to make 3 or 4 times my money in the next 10 years.
Absolutely.
Why should I sell any stock? What am I going to do with my money? So here's a guy, his board actually asked him to sell stock because they thought he was taking too much risk having such a large investment personally in the business.
Henry.
Thank you. And we're so happy to have you as a great shareholder of MSCI, and we hope to continue to be one.
I definitely am.
Henry, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. Andrew, back over to you.
Thank you, Becky. Coming up when we return to Wall Street in Washington, returning to Saudi Arabia's investment conference happening next week, a year after prominent business leaders and government officials rejected invites amid that backlash surrounding the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. A look at who will be attending and why next on Squawk.
Time now for today's Aflac trivia question. This forest products company was created in 1900 and was named after its founder. What is it? The answer when CNBC Squawk Box continues.
We think you would really shine in the Aflac.
Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, work from home on a Friday jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, Soho jobs, Shoreditch jobs. Keep me away from the central line jobs. Banking jobs, building jobs, never ever boring jobs. Small jobs, big jobs, lunch in Borough Market jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
Why is Lizzie going rental for Fizzy Haze? Is it because her flat is so beautiful and spacious? Snazzy! Or has roof terrace, garden and party room? Surprising! Or because it's 18 minutes to Paddington? Easy! With friendly staff on hand to take any deliveries. Amazing! Or just because her fuzzy friend can live there too? Find your new home at fizzyhaze.com. Fizzy Living, reinventing renting.
There's something for everybody this Halloween at Aldi. Dead good sweets, decorations, face paints. Be afraid. Be very afraid to miss out on these shockingly low prices. In store now. Everybody get to Aldi for an amazing Halloween.
Halloween's back, all right.
Will the retirement you get be the retirement you want? Check your state pension and see how you can build on it with a workplace or other pension. Get to know your pension at yourpension.gov.uk.
When it comes to music, I've heard it all. Pink Floyd, Sean Paul, Slipknot. But in the Which Test Lab, hearing isn't enough. When we test headphones, we really listen. Not just to the music, but to the stuff that gets in the way. The traffic, the chatter, all that. Mind the gap. We simulate the loudest commute to find you the headphones that cancel out the noise. So you know we're only recommending the best.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
Be part of the Perfume Shop's exclusive buy one get the second half price gifting weekend. Buy any perfume in store or online and you'll get the second half price. Thinking of a present? Think the Perfume Shop for the ultimate finishing touch. Offer ends Sunday the 27th of October. Visit theperfumeshop.com for more details.
Pretty paper, pretty ribbons of blue. Wrap your presents.
Now the answer to today's Aflac trivia question. This forest products company was created in 1900 and was named after its founder. What is it? The answer? Weyerhaeuser, named after Frederick Weyerhaeuser.
Pretty ribbons of blue.
What can you get from Tesco for £1 each this Halloween?
A pumpkin.
More.
A spooky pumpkin cup.
More.
Ghostly balloons. Spine-tingling spider webs. Ghoulish plates and napkins.
More. Yes, it is scary what you can get for just £1 each this Halloween.
Tesco. Every little helps. Available in selected larger stores.
With
the new Halifax Family Boost Mortgage. Children can get help to buy their first home, and Mum and Dad earn interest on their savings. Everyone's a winner. The new Halifax Family Boost Mortgage. Halifax makes it happen.
Your home and savings could be at risk if mortgage repayments are not maintained. Only available in England and Wales. One applicant must hold a Halifax Reward or Ultimate Reward current account. Conditions and exclusions apply.
The Peugeot Professional Van range is the beating heart of businesses across the UK. Whether you're on the road with only your DAB radio for company or navigating tight spots with rear parking sensors, all Peugeot Professional Vans give your business that edge. Visit your local Peugeot dealership during our October van event from the 10th to the 31st of October and drive away with an exclusive finance offer. Master the impossible. Peugeot Motor Company PLC is acting as a credit broker, not a lender. Finance subject to status. Terms and conditions apply. Business users and over 18s only. Guarantee may be required. PSA Finance UK Limited.
This autumn, as the nights draw in, beat the cold with Now TV. Curl up with the latest blockbusters, including Bohemian Rhapsody and Hotel Mumbai. Plus, with over 40 new movies added each month, from Aquaman to How to Train Your Dragon 3, Now TV's got you covered, wherever you feel like watching. Get cozy with the latest and best movies for just $11.99 a month. Search Now TV today. 18 plus month passes auto-renews unless cancelled. Terms apply.
Hey, you. We didn't make Nature Valley Crunchy bars so you could just sit and scoff them in front of the TV. Not when you could be enjoying them outdoors. Up here! Race it to the top! With 100% whole grain oats and delicious honey. Nature Valley Crunchy. Get out more.
Chase the sun with TUI to over 40 long-haul destinations. Explore the beautiful beaches of Jamaica, sip margaritas in Mexico, or see the many wonders of Asia. And until the 26th of October, enjoy £150 off per booking. When you fly with us, we'll take you there on one of our state-of-the-art Dreamliner planes. TUI, we cross the T's, dot the I's, and put you in the middle. T's and C's apply. Minimum spend £1,200 and available on selected holidays. See website for details. Atoll protected.
Welcome back to Squawk Box here on CNBC Live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Joe Kernan. Becky is attending and anchoring from the Barron Investment Conference and is joined by none other than Ron Barron. We're going to be hearing from her in just a couple of minutes, along with her guest, Ron Barron, and the chairwoman, the chair of Tesla, Robin Denholm. It's Denholm, isn't it? It's Denholm.
Let's talk Saudi, though.
That is just that interview is just a few minutes away. There's minefields everywhere.
Saudis. Let's talk Saudi, because the Saudi Investment Conference kicking off next week, and things have changed a lot since a year ago. A number of Wall Street executives have now confirmed their attendance despite the backlash last year over the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Joining us right now with her reporting on all of this is Kate Kelly, reporter at the New York Times, also a CNBC contributor. Our guest host, CNBC contributor Walter Isaacson, is also with us. Kate, I went to this. We both
were there together in 2017.
2017.
Yeah.
Got out of it last year.
That's right.
After the Khashoggi murder. And a lot of executives said they weren't going, but now everybody's going back.
Yeah, it does seem like what a difference a year makes in the case of Wall Street here. And you'll recall last year, I believe it was Larry Fink, and this was echoed by Jamie Dimon, that this pulling out of the conference is not going to make a huge difference. That was sort of the mentality. And as you can see, Jamie's not going this year, but Larry Fink is, and other senior people are. You know, according to Axios, Mike Corbett from Citigroup is going, Ray Dalio from Bridgewater. We've confirmed others, Dina Powell-McCormick. John Waldron, the president of Goldman Sachs, is going for the first time.
So what does this say, though? What does this say about last year? What does this say about this year? What does this say about our relationship with the Saudis? What does it say about the moral issues involved in
So I talked to Stephen Cook from the Council on Foreign Relations, among others, and he said, look, people never really stop doing business with Saudi. They want to be there. They want to continue the relationship. And going to the Future Investment Initiative is one indication of that. The Aramco IPO, you know, much discussed for literally years now. It's a critical part of Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030. And people think it's actually going to work out. It's going to come to market maybe even as early as next month. and this could be the biggest IPO in history. Right. So you've got a lot of major international banks, including Citi, JPM, Goldman, and Morgan Stanley working on it.
So Walter, though, what do you think? There was a big part of the public that actually applauded a lot of these executives last year.
And you wrote about it quite a bit.
I wrote about it, and I was
one of the leaders of the movement.
And people considered them to be statesmen when there was a view that somehow those in Washington were not.
Yes.
Was this just show and PR spin?
And is it again this year that you're not going and everybody else is back and you'll go next year? You give it one more year to sort of simmer?
But it's like Metternich.
By the way, it's a genuine question. I don't know the answer.
Are you going next year?
I don't know whether
Will you ever go back?
That's a good question. I don't know.
It is a good question because Metternich said, nations and happens to companies, they don't have permanent enemies, they don't have permanent friends. They just have permanent interests. After a while, you put something in a penalty box, but you have to say, okay, I'm going to now do business with China. I'm going to do business with Saudi Arabia, whatever. You can't permanently do it. I do think that because the Saudis, have Aramco coming on and everything else, people are a little bit too craven and moving back a little bit too fast to a kingdom that should be kept at arm's length a little bit more. But, yeah, of course people are going to go there.
I think there's a legitimate business ethics question here, though. I mean, on the one hand, you had this horrific murder of Jamal Khashoggi, and there's a clear indication that Saudi officials were involved in it, if not ordered it. And then even before that, don't forget, you had Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, among other elites, locked up at the very same Ritz-Carlton where you and I were having tea at the conference in 2017.
The business ethics as demonstrated by the NBA and Nike with China was impressive to you in terms of the business ethics?
Well, no, what I was going to say, Joe,
everything is you got to be cynical to look at the business world and understand that in the real world how things. We wouldn't be able to trade with anyone on the entire globe if everyone who murdered. Right. What about China? How could you possibly do any business with China? And here we've been benefiting.
Well, I think there could be growing fallout with China. I mean, especially, obviously you have the tariff fights, but then there are also concerns about human rights there. But what I was going to say is there is an argument, and some people would make it, that you're better off being at the table. Right. And Larry Fink has said this. He said, look, if you guys want to be global actors, you have to act like you're on the global stage, and having a dialogue and being a business partner is perhaps part of helping to modernize the economy.
You look at Saudi Arabia's a kingdom still, so kings do, and you look at what the type of punishment that gets meted out in countries all over the Middle East. We are horrified by, but I don't know how we try to export our value system on places. And what do you then just
Kelly,
don't deal with?
It's a longer debate. Come on back, and you got to come on back.
Can you still get a flight? Can you still? Because
this year, I
want another picture of you barefoot in the desert.
Hey, thank you. Walter's here. We're coming right back in just a moment.
Still to come, Tesla chairman Robin Denholm on the future of Tesla, the state of the economy, and what she's hearing from investors. That interview is just minutes away. Squawk Box will be right back.
How can I deliver superior long-term results?
They don't chant your name when you give blood or sing songs about you. But patients and their families will remember you forever. Because your blood can change their lives. We need more blood donors in Tooting, the West End and Edgware. Bleed for London. Join us today at blood.co.uk.
There's something for everybody this Halloween at Aldi. Dead good sweets, decorations, face paints. Be afraid. Be very afraid to miss out on these shockingly low prices. In store now. Everybody get to Aldi for an amazing Halloween.
Halloween's back.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
The world's longest wedding dress was longer than the Grand National Racecourse. Think that's big? Tonight, the Euro Millions jackpot is a colossal £52 million. 52 million! Now that's big!
Euro Millions from the National Lottery. Amazing starts here.
Estimated jackpot rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
With the new Halifax Family Boost mortgage, children can get help to buy their first home, and mum and dad earn interest on their savings. Everyone's a winner. The new Halifax Family Boost Mortgage. Halifax makes it happen.
Your home and savings could be at risk if mortgage repayments are not maintained. Only available in England and Wales. One applicant must hold a Halifax Reward or Ultimate Reward current account. Conditions and exclusions apply.
Carl's All Change Casserole.
So, Chloe walks in from school. Tears all over her face.
Daddy,
She says,
I don't want to eat animals anymore.
I blooming love my meat. But not as much as I love my little girl. That's why we've made some changes to our old favourite, sausage casserole. Now with meat-free Cumberlands, but still with my magic touch. A dollop of mango chutney. Just as tasty as it used to be.
Better, actually.
Make your own with the new Tesco Plant Chef range. Food Love Stories. Brought to you by Tesco.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here at the Barron Investment Conference in New York City with Ron Barron. And we've been meeting with many of the companies that Ron's been a big investor in. Right now it's time for our exclusive interview with Robin Dennell. She is Tesla's chairman. Ron Barron, of course, is here too. And Barron's been an investor in Tesla and a big backer of this company for 4 or 5 years. 5 years at this point. Rob, I want to thank you very much for being with us. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
This is the first time that CNBC is sitting down with you, and we're almost at a year from the time when you were tapped to come in and be the chairman at Tesla.
That's right.
Yeah, obviously that was a very interesting time. Elon is the biggest shareholder in the company. He agreed to have separation of the CEO and chairman roles because there was so much pressure coming from the SEC and from, I guess, from investors as well. At the time, people said that you were going to be the adult in the room. Obviously, that's a little insulting to Elon to think of it like that, but why don't you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Elon, how the two of you work together, and what's happened over the course of the last year?
Well, Becky, I've been on the board for 5 years before, as of this point in time, and so we formed a good working relationship, and actually I think it's a joy to be in that environment, both from a Tesla perspective, but also with working with Elon as well.
So you knew him for a long time beforehand. How did your relationship change, or just the way you work together change as you took on the role of chairman? How often do you see him? How much?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have our regular board meetings, but we also have conversations in between, and so they're relatively regular. But you know, sometimes there are more than others, and you know, it's a good working relationship.
You are somebody who's got an incredibly impressive background, both in technology and in auto companies as well. You worked at Toyota, most recently before you took this job. You were the chief operating officer at Telstra. So you've got a very good working knowledge base, somebody who has looked over so many different issues and had so much experience. What types of conversations do you have with Elon? What types of things do you talk about now?
Yeah, I mean, my background in terms of both operational and financial roles, and I've zigzagged between the two, irrespective of which company. And I've always been very focused on making sure that we're driving long-term shareholder value for the company. And so as a board member, I take that responsibility very seriously, and as do the rest of my peers. And, you know, in terms of conversations, they can be very varied. They could be, you know, things that are going on in the company, you know, whether it's from an employee perspective or future plans in terms of different things, different operational issues or financial issues. The team's very focused and very accomplished at doing many things, and as you can see from the results yesterday, they're doing very well.
So Elon is totally focused, laser focused on cost of operations, and what he does, in my observation, he listens. So when you say something to him and it makes sense, he listens. In fact, he has his teams of young people throughout the organization telling him constantly, Elon, and Jerome, for example, will have regular meetings with his staff and say, what can we do better? And then he says, when they come up with an idea, they show it to Elon, and then he does it. And so presumably he listens to you as well, and listens to Larry Ellison as well for ideas that you...
Yeah, I think, you know, the board's got a great background in many different industries, to Ron's point. And I think, you know, I think the testament is any CEO who actually can continue to grow a company the way Elon has with Tesla is going to listen to all points of view that are going to help the company move forward. And I think that's very true in this case. I do think the team is fantastic. It's the best executive team that I've seen in the many years that I've been there. And whilst they may be young in age, they're absolutely experienced both in terms of the way Tesla works, but in terms of the areas that they're focused on. And I think that, as I said, the results yesterday showed that it's a point in time, and obviously we're here for the long term, but I think that just incrementally continuing to do better and setting ambitious targets and actually achieving those is huge.
I'll ask both of you this question. Are you glad that he's not tweeting as much?
I think, he is a very disciplined individual, and, I think that the way he runs that company is phenomenal, so in all aspects.
When you talk about listening, then one of the directors had told me a year ago that he had come up with a chart, and the chart was when Elon tweeted what the stock had done, and when he hadn't tweeted what the stock had done.
It outperformed when he wasn't tweeting?
Yes. And so basically, this director did. And so talking about listening, so he listens to Robin, he listens to this other director, he listens to everyone. And that's how come they're able to be as agile as they are. They have 42,000 employees. 42,000. This is not reliant upon one man, but he has empowered people to be able to make decisions and to be able to do what's best for the company. And when people can figure out how they can perform and produce quality at a lower cost, he says, do it, right? He says you don't have to go through chain of command. They were telling me about how they were trying to make batteries for other people. And they said it was terrible. Daimler and Toyota, I guess it was, Tesla was doing things for them, and they would say, okay, so we need a battery that can have zero fault tolerance. I said, well, if you can have 5% or 2%, we could do it at half cost. And telling Toyota, and they, no, this is what we have to do. So it was stratified. Whereas our company, Tesla, what they do is they're able to act quickly. Right. And that's a big, big deal when you're trying to grow the way you are in a highly regulated business to produce a high-quality product that can kill people.
Andrew's got a question here, too. And Robin, if you just look at this camera when he answers it. Andrew, go ahead.
Hey, Robin, and thank you for that, Becky. You chair the company, obviously, but you also chair the audit committee. And I just wanted you to speak, if you could, to some of the critics around the accounting at the company. And one of the questions that came up, particularly this quarter, was this idea of that the company had a big profit swing, as you know, $550 million sequentially, but it did so on declining revenue. How does that happen? And is that a repeatable event?
Well, as we've talked about, the company is very focused on growth and very focused on cost reduction at the same time. And it's very unusual to find a company that's focused on both at the same time. And Tesla is focused on that. And so in terms of the chairing of the audit committee, I have been the chair of the audit committee since I joined the board in 14. And I'm very happy with the way the company handles all of its fiduciary responsibilities and its accounting.
So I would also add that the price that Tesla received for their average car in the last quarter was $13,000 less than it had been the quarter before, and they made $2,000 less in profits than they did. So therefore, they're really focused on costs that they're able to achieve. And in fact, right now, prices on their cars are actually going up. So every time someone else offers a new competitive car, Tesla sales increase. When Taycan, was it Taycan? Is that the name of the other? So when Taycan. So when Taycan was introduced to Porsche, I'm sure it's going to be a lovely car. But when it's been introduced, Tesla's orders increased fairly significantly, and the prices in Tesla cars are going up, and they're getting. People were worried about the X and S. They had some old inventory, which they, in the second quarter, penalized profitability, lower cost. But now what's happening is that they're actually charging higher prices for the S and the X than they had been before. So prices going up on products, demand is going up across the board, and and whenever they're showing product in European markets, sales are going through the roof.
Yeah. And so, as Ron said, in terms of the demand that's happening, it's strong across multiple geographies at a time. So, and we talked, the team talked about the revenue decline as a result of also the leasing proportion. So if you go back a year ago, the leasing proportion that we had, or cars that were being leased, particularly the Model 3, was a very, very low percentage, and we've been increasing that over time as well.
So I wanted to follow up with you on is, given that you spent a lot of time of your life in Asia, I wanted to just ask about China. The factory in China that Tesla is putting together, who owns that factory, and what's the relationship with the Chinese government?
So Tesla owns the factory, and the reason why the company's built that factory is we see a huge opportunity for growth in China. It is the largest market today for mid-sized premium vehicles, both in terms of sedans and SUVs. And as we bring that factory online, and you heard on the earnings call that actually we're in trial production today, only 10 months after we broke ground at that site, which is a phenomenal achievement. We plan to produce vehicles in China for the Chinese market and take advantage of that opportunity that we see in the growth there.
Robin, just in terms of the ramp up there, we did have an analyst on yesterday who said, yeah, it looks pretty promising what you're doing in China, but that in the past, some of what Tesla's done has been to ramp up and bring a lot of employees in, get things up, and then maybe scale back as you see what demand actually shapes up to be. He pointed out that that's not the way it works in China, that if you are working with Chinese companies with Chinese employees, you don't have that flexibility. What do you say to that, and what does that lead you to believe just in terms of profitability or how you're able to be flexible in that market?
Yeah, I think what I would say is all of the learnings that we've had in terms of ramping the company, both with Model 3 and S and X, have been applied to China. And so the team on the ground, whether it's on the tooling side, whether it's on the workforce side, or even just how we interact with our suppliers, have all been put into place as we're building the China factory. And so the team's done a phenomenal job. Ron mentioned Jerome before. He and the local team in China have been working hand in glove to make sure that we take advantage of all of the things that we've learned over the last few years.
You were also talking about scaling back. This first plant...
Well, just making sure you have enough employees to get it off the ground, and then maybe changing the size of the employment group.
But their first operation, which is just opening, is to build 3,000 cars a week. That's 150,000 cars a year. On this conference call yesterday, or the day before?
Day before,
so Elon said they were going to triple that amount. So basically, instead of doing 3,000 cars a week, they're on the way to 10,000 cars a week or more in China.
Let me just ask you about a couple of those things, Robin, because I said earlier that sometimes Elon overpromises and underdelivers. Ron corrected me and said, no, he overpromises and then delivers just a little later than you thought you were going to get it. Let me ask you about a couple of those numbers. The delivery goal between 360,000 and 400,000 vehicles, that's the full year vehicle forecast. Do you think that that's an achievable goal?
Yeah, so the way I think about it is to achieve what Tesla has achieved over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years, you have to set audacious goals and big goals to actually, and then have everybody in the company work like crazy to get there. And again, if I look back over the last 5 years, nobody had predicted that Tesla would be where they are today in terms of producing 97,000 vehicles a quarter, or building a factory in China in 10 months. So the team is awesome, and I think part of it is setting those very big goals so that the company can rally and get behind them and move forward and move the whole industry forward.
Robin, I want to thank you so much for your time and being so generous with us. Ron, I want to thank you for your time and joining us here.
Thanks for inviting us.
It's been amazing having you here, and we really appreciate it. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Joe, we'll send it back over to you.
Thanks, and we want to thank Walter Isaacson too, Becky, for being here with us for the hour. And
thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
I may have to read about Ada.
Ada Lovelace.
Unbelievable. Lord Byron's daughter.
Yes,
never met her.
And the algorithms we use in our computers. Right. My daughter, Betsy, taught me about Ada Lovelace.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
So you acting like you're...
When we return, taxes, trade, and China. Congressman Kevin Brady joins Joe and Andrew for the hour. Plus, we'll hear from outspoken New Jersey lawmaker Josh Gottheimer and the CEO of United Airlines, Oscar Munoz. Squawk Box will be right back.
Interactive Brokers pays 1.4.
What if your email was organized by project and not by date? What if everyone looked at the same thing instead of their own inbox? Then it wouldn't be email at all. Forget your fragmented, jumbled inbox and make the change to channels in Slack. Spaces dedicated to individual projects, topics, or teams. All your communication is neatly organized and everyone is on the same page. Slack. Choose a better way to work. Get started at slack.com.
There's something for everybody this Halloween at Aldi. Dead good sweets, decorations, face paints. Be afraid. Be very afraid to miss out on these shockingly low prices. In store now. Everybody get to Aldi for an amazing Halloween.
Halloween's back, alright. I've always loved a kitchen experiment, especially smoothies. I've blended all sorts of mad combinations. Strawberry and charcoal, broccoli and chocolate. Not my best, that. But when I test blenders in the Witch Lab, it's not about flavour, it's about performance. Our tests use proper tough stuff, hard ice, strong veg, rough nuts. And the blenders that can hack it are the only ones we recommend for your kitchen.
Which tests harder so you can buy smarter. Visit which.co.uk.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
There's It's a Friday Afternoon happy. Listening to a banger happy. There's no traffic on the M1 happy. Kid-free this weekend happy. There's only 61 days until Christmas happy. It's almost lunchtime happy. Getting your tyres changed over your lunch break with a free coffee happy. You get that kind of happy from QuickFit in Watford. Book online now at quickfit.com and drive away happy. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, you. We didn't make Nature Valley crunchy bars so you could just sit and scoff them in front of the TV. Not when you could be enjoying them outdoors. Up here! Race it to the top! With 100% whole grain oats and delicious honey. Nature Valley Crunchy. Get out more.
Talking taxes. Capitol Hill's top Republican on the topic joins us live. House Ways and Means Ranking Member Kevin Brady is our special guest.
Taking flight, United Airlines making a major push on customer service today. The company's CEO will join us live.
Plus this morning's top stock movers, including the shares of Amazon getting slammed as the final hour of Squawk Box begins right now.
Live from the most powerful city in the world, New York, this is Squawk Box.
Good morning and welcome back to Squawk Box here on CNBC, live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. We were more positive with the futures earlier. We're almost ready to go lower. I'm Joe Kernan, along with Andrew Ross Sorkin, Becky Quick. As you have seen, is at the Barron Investment Conference this morning. Our guest host this hour, seated next to Andrew, Republican Congressman Kevin Brady.
And he's carrying a hat that is very insulting to those of us in New York who were hoping
the World Series champs right here.
Right. But time to turn that baby inside out or something. You better.
We need rally
You better try something.
Look, I got a lot of faith in these guys. When their back's against the wall, that's when they play the best.
I hope that
got a lot of faith in.
There's nothing better than the seventh game of any series,
no
but it's not going your way at least so far. But Brady's over next to you. I got Josh over next to me, but he's sort of you're not a real hardcore. You're kind of a blue dog, aren't you?
I work with both sides.
You do. He said he liked you.
Yeah, I love Kevin a lot. He's a great guy.
All right. Well, we're going to get.
So sorry, we're not going to fight. I'll only take him on about his baseball team.
That's it. So I have to tell you something, Joe. Too. I brought you something from Cincinnati.
Oh, I
love
from your
that.
Old buddy. Give that
Evan
to
Andrews.
Wait, is that a new kind? Is that the original, or because I have to
barbecue sauce, right?
We've had these ribs. We're going to have them again. I think Montgomery is going to come back.
That's your hometown.
It is
always in your heart, and
it's sweet and tangy. U.S. Equity, just like the show.
Butter you up,
just like the show.
Yes, I am.
It's sweet and tangy at times. We're up about 3.5 now. on the Dow. The NASDAQ's been down the entire pre-market session because of Amazon. At one point it was down actually 100 points because it's up in the 1600, 1700 area. And then we have the S&P down about 4 1/4. Let's get right to this morning's big corporate stories and stock movers. Dom Chu joins us now, and it probably will see Amazon. You got intel there too, Dom?
So I'm going to focus on this morning's, but first of all, let me just say that I just got a warm and fuzzy feeling by all the harmony that was on the Squawk desk this morning. So I mean, let's hope we can keep that up, and I'll feel like my Friday can kick off just right. Anyway, we'll start our TGIF morning edition off with a check on shares of Verizon, Joe, from this morning. Those shares are up about 1% or so, roughly 19,000 shares of pre-market volume. This is America's second biggest telecom company by market value, but its biggest one in terms of wireless carrier subscribers. It posted an earnings and revenue beat, powered along by the addition of more of those postpaid wireless subscribers than expected. Those are all the folks that pay a monthly bill. They don't buy the prepaid or burner phones, but those shares up in the pre-market. Next up are shares of VF Corp, which are moving in the opposite direction. They're down about 4% or so, roughly 22,000 shares of pre-market volume. The apparel company behind big brands like Timberland, the North Face, and Dickies posted profits and sales that both fell below analyst estimates, due in part to softer demand for its Vans shoes. So those shares moving in the opposite direction. And then we're going to take a look at shares of Phillips 66, which are higher by around 1% or so, roughly 4,000 shares pre-market volume. The oil refiner, transportation company, and marketing firm posted profits that topped expectations, but sales were very, very narrowly below consensus forecasts. Phillips 66 helped along by stronger results in its fuel sales operations. That includes its namesake gas stations, as well as 76 and Conoco branded ones. And then to your point, Joe, we're ending on a quick check on Amazon, which is down by about 6.5% or so, roughly 110,000 shares of pre-market volume. Now, this on the heels of that earnings report last night. We want to point out, as of yesterday's close, the online retail and cloud computing giant was already 13% below the record highs that it hit. You can see there back in September of last year. If you tack on another 6% today, we could be flirting with what some traders call, Andrew, that bear market territory, or a 20% drop from its highs. Back over to you guys.
Okay, thank you for that. We're almost 2 years into the president's new tax law, and while Republicans continue to tout the president's policy, some Democrats in high tax states are feeling the salt being rubbed in their wounds. Joining us right now is our guest host, Ways and Means ranking member, Texas Congressman Kevin Brady's here. Also, New Jersey Congressman and Financial Services Committee, Josh Gottheimer is here as well. So thank you for both for being here. Let's talk about the salt issue, because you're living it. You're living with it.
It's killing us.
And you think it's killing. And this was your creation. So what are we going to do?
Because it's the state and local taxes that are killing people in New Jersey. By the way, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, the high tax state, these are fantastic states, great economy. But they are brutally taxed. And repealing these taxes would be a huge giveaway. About half of it goes to millionaire households. Josh's district, average family 4, got a tax cut of $5,700. That helps them.
Wait, now you don't like millionaires either?
No, I like millionaires. This tax break was focused on middle class families and raising them.
No, and now you do like millionaires. Listen, and I appreciate Kevin's work on this, and also the reduction, and of course the reduction of taxes for businesses of all sizes. I think that was a good step. The concern is for states like mine. In my district, everyone's taxes went up. So the problem is, other places maybe got a break. All I know is in my district, are people really feeling it? Home values are way down. New Jersey, #1 out-migration state. Of course, we can do more to get our taxes down in Jersey. I'm a big believer in that. But here's the problem. Jersey is taking care of other states right now. We're literally paying their bills, these moocher states, which I talk about. We're lifting them all up, and the problem, and now we're lifting them up even more. That's my base issue. If these states want to say, listen, we're not going to take a dime more than we put into the kitty, that's fine, and we can make that deal. But right now, what the problem is, we're paying for all these moocher states, and that's my fundamental problem.
You guys weren't going to argue.
We're
getting along. We're just
Texas is a donor state. We have
Texas
high
is a donor state, but there are a lot of states that are mooching.
Yeah. Yes, but I'll tell you what, it's not because of tax cut. Look, 80% of New Jerseyans got a tax cut, just like in New York. Texas has high property taxes. The difference is our whole tax approach is designed to track jobs and attract people. New Jersey brutally taxes. And Josh, look, you don't do the taxes in your state, but you have the worst property taxes in the world based on the highest rates, and your governor, after the SALT was in place, raised taxes on families and businesses and wants to do more. Can you imagine what he does
I certainly didn't agree
if
with
SALT's
that.
repealed?
I certainly didn't agree with that, but here's the deal. Mississippi and Alabama, right? Mississippi takes $4.38 for every dollar they pay. Their budgets, they start their budgets, ask their legislators, they start and say, what are we getting from the federal government that's here to help pay our way? That's where they start. And then they expect us to just write them a check every year. So what if we just did this crazy idea? What do you think about this? They don't take a nickel more than they pay in. And that seems like a very basic
Let's
idea.
equalize Medicaid. New York and New Jersey Medicaid dollars are about 5 times more than what they are in Texas. Let's even all of this stuff. Or we can do this. Everyone pays their own taxes. That's what we did in tax reform. We essentially said, we don't care where you live or how your government's taxed. You're just going to pay your taxes. Some of the state is not going to. So if New Jersey governor wants to raise taxes on families, a single mom in New Jersey who doesn't itemize shouldn't pay for it.
What about the
Nor
baseline
should a
tax?
single mom in New York or in Iowa pay for it.
Kevin, just the double taxation idea that we're getting whacked twice. I mean, my concern is that we're paying taxes twice on the same income. So if Jersey wants to do what they want to do, we just shouldn't get hit twice for it.
Okay, but I'm going to push back on that because I imagine you probably believe in, I don't know if you believe in raising not carried interest, but capital gains.
I don't think we should be raising any taxes right now.
Okay.
I'm so confused right now. You're the Democrat?
We can't afford,
and
but that's
you're the
because
Republican that hates millionaires.
No,
And
I
you're the
don't.
one that loves
We just
millionaires.
didn't. No,
I
we
just don't
didn't
think
create this tax break for millionaires. That's all.
Andrew, are you confused?
I'm not confused. I get what's happening here.
You really?
Everybody's representing their own interests. That's what's really happening here.
The SALT thing is
better for no.
How much do you have to make? How much you have to make before the SALT really hits you in New Jersey? It's not the people that you're talking.
No,
it's $250,000.
No. If you actually look at it, every county in my district pays over $10,000 in SALT. Right, the average is so they're getting they're all getting
very rich county.
Well, it's an expensive place to live.
Can we just get rid of the pretenses
But
here?
you still got
Forget
a
about the
$5,000
philosophical
tax
views here. Everyone's saying they have a philosophical view. I would make the case that you have a view that maybe it's philosophical, maybe it's not, but that this tax plan benefits your state. And I believe that your view of how you want the tax policy to be,
politics are local.
That's what we're talking
That's
about.
our job, right? We're representatives. That is our job.
No, I know, but it's not anything more than that. It's not an ideological.
No, look, Andrew, I disagree.
You disagree.
This wasn't about blue versus red states at all. This is about economic growth in a big way. Look, Josh just made the point. Their property taxes are over $10,000. That $10,000 figure is double national average.
It is.
So these are states that are brutal taxing states, and I think Josh
because the
agrees
cost of
with me.
living is very high, right? So
Because in part your taxes are so high, and I think you would agree with me. The state legislature and the governors of other cities ought to be lowering those taxes.
But Josh, you want lower.
I agree. I think we should do whatever we can.
You're
to
crazy.
cut taxes.
You want lower taxes for your wealthy constituents. The entire platform of every nominee in your party in this election is higher taxes for wealthy people. Are you not on board?
If you live here, your cost of living. If you live here, your cost of living is higher. So what seems like a higher number in parts of Texas or Mississippi or Alabama,
You don't want
just
wealthy
doesn't
people
go
to
as
pay
far.
more in taxes?
I want to make sure that people can afford to live in my district, and that's what I care about. No, but I'm not for. I don't just think we should. What about the
wealth
just
tax?
reflexively?
You don't like that?
I don't support.
You
that.
have a nominee that you want someone else. You want Bloomberg?
I don't. No. I don't support.
You want Hillary to run against so she can win again?
I don't support raising taxes. I guess that's the bottom line.
Okay, so here, what I was going to say is I just did an interview with George Soros. I wrote a column about it. I know that's like a dog whistle for you.
Whoa! Well, I heard it. It's not a dog. That was loud and clear.
He said that he believes that the most that the candidate that is the most qualified is Elizabeth Warren, and then went on to say that he supports taxing the rich and a wealth tax. What do you make of that?
I don't think I do not believe that the answer.
A longtime supporter of your party.
I don't believe the answer right now is to raise taxes on folks. And to your point, in my district, in my state, where we have a huge outmigration, where costs are too high, the answer has to be to cut taxes, to get spending under control. I think we got to look at our deficits. You know, the tax plan added the tax plan added $2 trillion to deficit. GDP growth isn't where it should be and where we thought it was going to be. So I'm concerned about long-term viability, and the idea of just whacking people more with higher taxes is not our way to growth.
Deficit issue. So
repealing the SALT adds $600 billion to the deficit. You can't talk about doing one and talk about the other. It adds $600 billion. We use those dollars to lower taxes on working families. We did, in my belief, the right thing. And by the way, just so you know, revenues this year in Washington are at the highest in U.S. history. Inflation adjusted the second highest. Well be true, but look, the problem isn't you're sending us too much money, not enough money. The problem is our spending, especially in our automatic pilot programs.
We did so many interviews, probably 2 or 3 years ago, when all of this was being put together, and we would ask you very straight up, is this going to pay for itself? And you very straight up would say yes.
So what I said was over time, we believe, and I think we'll know year 7, 8, 9, we'll have the true picture of how much of that we recouped. I believe there's a very good chance we do that.
If the revenue is above where it was,
it is above.
That's what I mean. You don't think that means that you've cut taxes, but the revenue is still above. You don't see how that sort of could be implied.
That look at our other guests.
We're just at 1/10 of projected growth right now. Listen, if it works out, that's great. But Kevin, one thing I'd say is we can fully reinstate SALT. And I'll show you a plan. I'm going to sit down with you and show you my legislation, which does it without actually adding to the deficit.
It's hard for me to argue. I live in New Jersey. It's hard for me to argue against him
here. Look, we know there is impact. Look, we're not.
No, I'm actually okay with it because I think that the profligate spending of New York and New Jersey, you deserve this.
I think we should get spending down and get taxes down, but I also think it's ridiculous that we're paying for everyone else. That's the principle. That's my principal problem with this. That we pay for all these mutual states. That's what really bothers me.
You got to take everything into account, though.
I'm fine with looking at everything, but I'd say this. There's a way to do it where we actually can address deficit issues, get our taxes down, and make our businesses happy. There's a way, and promote growth without just whacking people.
What can we cut? You say, that a lot of it's fixed spending. We can't cut any. We got it, and the Trump administration has no interest in entitlement reform. Why not?
Yeah.
Next term,
look, all the projected deficits. There is some for military buildup. Josh has been a big supporter, obviously, of defense and security in a big way. But I will tell you,
that too. You can
pretty basic. That's bipartisan.
That's a basic thing. You want to make sure our country is secure.
But most of the spending is in those automatic programs. We're going to have to figure out a way, both parties, how we save Social Security for the long run. Medicare's hospital fund goes bankrupt in 7 years. This is one of those, neither party can do it themselves. We're going to have to figure out a way.
And we got to get through trade. We got to get our prescription drug costs down. There's a way to do this.
A separate question. What do you think high SALT states like New York, like New Jersey should do? Assuming that nothing changes, what do you think is going to happen?
You're going to obviously have to get costs down to make sure that you can still provide the services you need. You're going to have to really take a very, very hard look at it, right? And make some decisions that are tough decisions, right? These are tough decisions the state legislatures need to make. But I think we have to I believe we're going to get more SALT back. I think we're going to work this out because I think there's certain extenders that the Republicans want. I think we can make it.
Where is there a middle here? I have not heard about the middle.
I don't think that, respectfully, don't think that's the case. I do think these high-tax states have got to make a decision. They've been losing, New York's been losing $100 billion of wealth over the last 20 years, lost 1,100 millionaires the year before tax reform. I think these states fundamentally have to change the way they tax. And millennials are fleeing New York, New Jersey, California, Illinois. They love living in those states. They just can't afford it anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're going to have to change.
And listen, I agree we're going to get costs down. The SALT issue killed us, and it totally stuck it to certain states. That's my fundamental issue. I know we disagree on this. So why don't we go back? Here's what I think we need to do. I think we need to really look at what's going to all these moocher states, take a fundamental look at that, try to get the reliance of some of these other states on Jersey down and New York, and then
your party wants to go to socialism, and you don't like moochers. I don't understand who you are. How long you been in Washington?
That's not all our party. You know that. Come on.
That's all I hear. Every candidate running.
The good news is Kevin is a real...
Nationals don't do it for you. You're in Washington.
No. What? I'm an Astros
that's what I mean. But how long have you been in Washington? You live in Washington now.
No, we live in Texas, in the Woodlands, Texas.
How much time do you spend in Washington? You don't like Washington at all? The Nationals at all?
They're a great team and they're real, but my family and I commute What have I got? 2.5
You still
million
like the
miles
Yankees or
flying
no?
back
I'm a
and
huge
forth.
Yankees fan.
You're not
exactly.
a national
That's why I'm not
fan.
thrilled
Who
with
are
it.
the
Yeah, look,
national
Yankees
fans?
are-
No one's
Nash,
really
no,
seen
come
them.
on, man.
Tell you what, they're real. I know that.
That's for
They're
sure.
real.
Yeah,
It's good.
well,
And by the way, and I was just saying, Kevin is a very good man, and I think.
Oh, now.
No.
Now.
The
Oh,
good news.
yeah.
No,
I would right back at you.
And then
Because
they just-
actually, it's okay to disagree about
Yeah.
ideas. This is how you should have a discussion.
You don't like
You shouldn't
merchants.
scream at each other.
What about social? I don't.
You can keep promoting this agenda of yours. I'm against that.
Okay.
You know.
Congressman, thank you.
I just watched
You're
the debate.
sticking around.
I learned everything
Don't
from the
paint
last
us all
debate.
the same, you know.
Well, you got to come on back because we do have to have a conversation about the future of the Democratic Party because right now it feels like there's two different parties.
I'm happy to come back anytime to talk about that.
There's everybody else and him in the other party.
No, that's not
no,
true.
no, that's not
Actually, most Americans are somewhere in the middle. They're not screaming from the wings.
Most Americans.
The people who watch your show are not out there.
They're in the middle.
There you go. Well, you got a problem. Anyway, coming up, Citigroup just named. Thank you.
Thanks,
Good to see you, friend.
Named a likely successor to CEO Mike Corbat. Those details next. Plus, don't forget to subscribe to our new podcast. It'll probably be some of this last discussion on that today. You get interviews and much more. Stay tuned. Remember Macbeth, fair is foul and foul is fair. I don't know you. I don't know. Squawk Box will be right back.
Teaching shapes lives. If you're thinking of becoming a teacher, our expert teaching advisors can give you the level of support you need to get one step closer to the classroom. Teaching. Every lesson shapes a life. Search Get Into Teaching. Advisor support subject to eligibility.
London, switch to Vodafone, the UK's best mobile network, and Be Unlimited, because the best phones deserve the best network and our new unlimited data plans. The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Max download speeds apply to unlimited data. Best network as voted by readers of trusted reviews. Terms at vodafone.co.uk/unlimited.
This autumn, as the nights draw in, beat the cold with Now TV. Curl up with the latest blockbusters, including Bohemian Rhapsody and Hotel Mumbai. Plus, with over 40 new movies added each month, from Aquaman to How to Train Your Dragon 3, Now TV's got you covered, wherever you feel like watching. Get cozy with the latest and best movies for just $11.99 a month. Search Now TV today. 18 plus month passes auto renews unless cancelled. Terms apply.
Did you get the milk?
I bought brie, fish fingers, and washing up liquid.
You went out for milk.
I won't be long.
You can't always control what you spend, but you can save as you spend with Save the Change. When you use your Lloyds Bank debit card, we'll round up the amount to the next pound and transfer the difference to your nominated Lloyds Bank savings account. Feel in control every day with our mobile banking app. Lloyds Bank, by your side. T's and C's apply.
The nights have started to draw in. And at DFS, we know that can only mean one thing. Everyone will want to spend more time at home, getting nice and cozy. You can't beat it. That's why all our sofas are handmade to order, and many are guaranteed to be delivered in time for Christmas. So you can look forward to cozying up this winter, knowing your new sofa won't let you down. DFS.
Your new neighbour is a musician. His creative peak is at 3 a.m. They're doing roadworks next to your house. Your dog thinks he's a wolf at night. There's always a reason to travel. Fly with Lufthansa's incredible fares around the world. For example, to Bangkok, Shanghai, or Singapore. Book now on Lufthansa.com. Conditions apply.
Say yes to the world. Lufthansa.
Citigroup has promoted Jane Fraser to run its global consumer bank, putting her in a position to potentially succeed Michael Corbat. As CEO, Fraser's been at the bank for 15 years, most recently running its Latin American business. She also ran the bank's troubled mortgage business and is credited with its recovery after the financial crisis. All right, coming up when we return, California's largest utility has been implementing rolling blackouts in an attempt to avoid wildfires, and that's leaving consumers looking for power in other places, including generators. And Generac CEO Aaron Jagdfeld joins us next.
What does the word partner really mean?
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The war of the crown. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in?
The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
The sideline, the man fleet for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right.
NBA today to start listening.
Deep left center field, a grand slam!
October baseball is here.